Hi, hat fans. I've got another useful vocabulary video for you. This time we're going to be talking about different kinds of head forms that you can use in making hats, either from home or professionally. And I'll show you a range of what they are and tell you what the names for them are. So let's start with this. Now, this is a styrofoam head that you can buy at most wig shops for around $5 or less. I think this one was $3 up the street. I have several of these that I primarily use to store wigs on, but you can use these to make hats on as well. If you are using a process that involves steam and heat, then you would want to cover this type of head with aluminum foil, because eventually you apply enough heat to this and it's going to melt. So that's one drawback to this. But if you're primarily working with soft fabric or even rigid structures like buckram and fabric or straw, then this is a great thing to use, and it's so inexpensive and easy to find. So the styrofoam head is a good beginner thing to start with. Now, if you're going to get a little bit more professional, this is what I like to work on. This is a type of head form called, there's several names here. Some people call it a dolly head. Some people call it a canvas block or a wig block, because wig masters who create hand-tied lace front wigs block them out on this type of head form. So at our theater, Playmakers Repertory Company, I have a cabinet full of these in every head size, which if you look on, this one is a 23.5. We have the head circumference size written at the base of each of these. I have a full set of these from 19 up to 26 in my hat block cabinet at the studio. And then our wig master and wardrobe supervisor has her own set of these. Now, these are more expensive than the styrofoam head blocks. I believe we paid about $30 to $40 each for these. They're nice for patterning on if you are familiar with drafting and draping techniques, because they have orbital seams in the canvas, so you can create a hat that fits very close to the head if you're doing stitched fabric hats by draping along these seam lines to get your pattern. And this is really my favorite head block, head shape to make hats on. But I have a couple others here that you may find if you take over at a millinery studio and you are looking through their supplies and stuff. You may find these other head shapes. And so just so you know what they are, this lady here is a mannequin head, a display form. So I have her and two other different styled basic people heads. And I primarily use these to put finished hats on to take pictures for the press or portfolios. So this type of lady, she actually has a freakishly small head. It would be hard to work on her, and she's rigid plastic, so you can't pin into her. But she's very useful for modeling hats if you don't have a willing colleague or performer around. So I have 3 of these. Well, right now I only have 1. The other 2 are at work for my students to use. And then this type of head form is called a hat block, or specifically a crown block, because you form moldable media over top of this, most often felt. So if you think about traditional hat shapes like the fedora and cowboy shaped hats, they get blocked on this and then folded by hand into different sorts of shapes. So you can use this also as a hat form to to make patterns off of, but because it's rigid wood, you have to hammer tacks into it. You can't pin easily into it with sewing pins the way that you could pin into both of these. So those are the 4 types of head forms that you may find in a millinery studio, or in a thrift store, or in a, antique store, or in the case of the Styrofoam, in a wig shop. So that's my survey of head forms and what to call them and what to do with them. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one.